Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of For the Culture. Thank y'all for tuning in. I know we're a little bit late, a couple minutes late, but black people always late for something. But love y'all. I'm glad that y'all tuned in. We got a very great show. This is our first episode, so pretty much you guys are going to be a part of history right now. This is going to be a very historical event. Shout out to Hip Hop Success TV for hosting this event. Hip Hop Success TV is a new entity that we want to use to elevate hip hop, to elevate people doing positive things in hip hop. There's so many different, places that you can go to see negativity and fights and arguing and who's doing all of the most negative things you can possibly think of. But this platform is going to be us uplifting our music, us uplifting our culture, us uplifting our entrepreneurs, our young people who are elevating, our older people who are pushing the culture forward, who are evolving, who are doing positive things. Like we really don't have, we don't have any platforms for us that show us in that light. So, when I got involved with this, it was predicated under that. We wanted to show us doing things that uplift us. So shout out to Hip Hop Success TV. Log on. I think this is somewhere that you guys would love to be involved with. Something that you'll go there and see positivity, see people doing things, that inspire you and motivate you to want to be great, not just the same old, oh, he's fighting and this person's beefing. I know that has some place in it. I don't know where, but understand that has some place in culture, but we want to give you the opposite. We want to be the yin to the yang. So shout out to Hip Hop Success TV. This is like I said, this is the first episode of For the Culture. It's going to be many more, so bear with us. I know we were a little late, but on this first episode, we're going to cover a few things, but mainly we have a guest today. We didn't give you the guest before. Just wanted you guys to tune in. And while we were getting all this together, we found a guest that I thought would be suitable for our first episode, that would intrigue you, educate you, inspire you, because the way they did to me. Now, this guest is someone that I discovered online about a little under a year ago. Blessings to you, Latoya King. I discovered online a little over a year ago there was a video that went viral, and on that video, I saw a judge. She's a judge, and she was being arrested. She was in the courtroom, and she was being remanded by a judge, one of her peers. She was arrested originally for a DWI, and then she was being remanded into custody. And she gave an argument to the judge. Her being the judge, she understands the legal terms. She understood her rights, and she had explained to the judge that she was being illegally arrested. That this wasn't the first time that you have already illegally arrested me. This is the second time that you have this is an illegal arrest. There's no merit for this based on this. And she gave all these laws, and the judge was unable to refute her claim. So it really inspired me and motivated me, like, damn. And then seeing her being a woman of color, and see her articulate, and then it made me just do a little more study. And when I looked into her case, she had been arrested for a DWI as a judge, and she had pled guilty, and then they were violating her for numerous different things, and it made me say, damn, I think that what's going on is wrong. The system doesn't even protect one of us, even when we're part of the judicial system. So, it moved me to post her viral video on my Instagram page. And it got a lot of reaction, a lot of people logged in and tuned into me and told me how it was messed up and how they supported it. Then I know people from the time that she practices in Rochester, and a lot of them were saying how good a judge she was. A lot of them were telling me how really good a judge she was, and how she had represented properly, how a lot of the young people, she was giving them fair shots. She wasn't just a judge that was just throwing people in jail. And, so it moved me more. And then a few days ago, I was going through my Instagram, and she had contacted me. She had sent me a DM message, and I looked at the message, and she was like, "Hey, I appreciate you for posting my video." And I was like, "Well, thank you." And then she was like, hold on a second. She was like, "I appreciate you for posting my video. People had contacted me, got a lot of good response. It made people pay attention to actually what was going on with her." So it prompted me, saying I was already going to do this. So I was like, you know what? Maybe we should interview you. And she was like, "Well, why not?" And I hadn't never heard her story, and she gave me some insight into what was going on with her, and it moved me to really, really want to, let you guys hear her perspective, her side of what's going on, because when you look at the media seems to portray us people of color in such a negative way, in the way that the media has been portraying Leticia, I don't think accurately represents who she is. So I wanted to give her an opportunity to give you an understanding of who she is, what she's been dealing with, what motivates her, and will ultimately give you a full scope of what's going on here. So in a second, we're about to bring Leticia on. I don't know. I think she's queued in our green room right now. And if she is, then we're probably going to bring her on in a second. Is Leticia in there, guys? No? Okay, well, until she comes on, we're going to be talking. But yeah, she's a judge out of Rochester. And based on the news, she allegedly was arrested for a DWI. And she went to court, and they came to some plea agreement. And throughout the plea agreement, there was supposed violations in which the judge continued to violate her. I think, don't get me wrong, I think it was about 2 times that she got violated for different things. And each time she expressed how the court was wrong and how, it was illegal. They were illegally incarcerating her. And me being in the system before made me understand what she was dealing with. And then it even was more close to the situation, because just recently I was in Philly and been a part of the Free Meek Mill campaign. And to me, I just seen similarities in this case, and I wanted her to give her perspective on how the legal system, she views the legal system, probably get some questions on her about how Meek Mill is being treated and what she thinks on that. That's a big topic. I was at Meek Mill's case and hearing that a DA agrees that your charge should be overturned and it not be overturned, and a judge, given a pushback on a conviction that a DA admits that the evidence against the convicted person was illegally obtained and was tainted, and therefore the conviction should not stand. That was mind-boggling to me. I've never ever heard of a judge just not agreeing with the DA, the person who is here to try the case, the person whose goal is to get rid of the case. So when the DA says that we did something wrong, admits that something was wrong on their part, and the judge to say, "Oh well, now we're gonna just do a whole hearing." What is the hearing on? It's like, who are you fighting against? Like, you think the DA is gonna present evidence to say we wrong? You know, the defense is going to present evidence to say they're wrong. So where does the need for a hearing before you release someone who's already been, who the DA has already admitted is illegally being obtained? So, you know, that was something that moved me. And then seeing both of these cases and seeing how, in my view, in my understanding, you know, they pretty much intertwine and have similarities. So as we wait for Leticia Astacio, you can look her up as we do this so you can understand more of her case and just get a perspective, but don't just take the perspective that they give you. Just understand, just to give some background. And then as you listen to her and you get her views and you get her understanding of what's exactly going on here, you know, then you can come to a conclusion. Then you can draw an opinion of exactly what's going on that's based on facts, that's based on both sides, you know, because more often than not, the media gets to dictate exactly what's going on, exactly what you think, exactly what you see, exactly what you are hearing and seeing. So, you know, we're going to ask her some questions about what's going on. I'm going to give you an opportunity, you know, and in the meantime, before we go on, this is our first episode, you know, you guys definitely want you to interact and give me some perspective on what would you like to see this show entail? What would you like this? What is your vision for the culture? You know, give me some feedback. Give me on what you think it would make sense to do for the culture. Give me some feedback. You know, I see we have some viewers online. Tell me what you would want to see when you tune in and say, okay, this is what I want to see for the culture's on. You know, who would you want me to interview? What you know, what kind of subject would you like? Would you like it to be hip hop based mostly? Would you like it to, you know, because my vision is, you know, my whole thing is I'm gangster but woke as fuck. So the gangster part is the hip hop and the woke is the political. So I try to merge both of those worlds together because I feel like I'm astute in both areas. So what would you like? Tell me somebody that you would like for me to get an interview on, and we'll do our best to get them on. Give me some questions. You got any questions for me? Anything that y'all want me to answer? You know, if you logged in, you can send me some questions right now as we wait for Leticia to join us. In the meantime, I want you guys to send me some questions. Okay, I think I gotta look at your comments. I see comments here. Let me see. See all. Let me see. What's good? Okay. Stop killing each other. I don't know who that is. The media is made to divide us. So if anybody believes anything in the media, then you're feeding the agenda of a higher power. Okay? On the come up. Hip Hop Success TV on the come up. Mad love from Dallas. Darren White. Thank you. Fidel Maldonado. Much love from Houston. Thank you, Houston. Corey Hawthorne. Peace to you. Mona Monet. Blessings to you. Victoria Kenya, blessings. Thank you. Amanda Starr, Lowell, Massachusetts. Appreciate you. J. Goddess Williams, hi. Lanique Moore from Alabama, hey. How are you? I like the fact that you talk about real topics and bringing people to light. Thank you, Isaac. Cincinnati, Melissa from Cincinnati, peace. Colin Claracuzio from Jamaica.
Worked.
We got Jamaica in the house.
Can you see me?
Hey, Leticia.
Hi, I don't know what happened. It just suddenly worked.
It just suddenly worked. That's how it works. That's God's will.
So it is God's plan. So I will just be quiet and plug my phone in there.
Okay. Yeah, make
And
sure.
I will stop waiting to get into championship finals.
Okay. Well, we're glad that you're on. You know,
Sorry for the delay.
well, it's not your fault. You know, we all, this is our first time. We all trying to figure everything out, you know, and I'm glad that you took the time out of your very busy schedule. And I know you're dealing with a lot right now. And I'm just happy that you even want to share and give us the opportunity to give what's going on here. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in.
No problem.
So, wow, where do we start? Where do we start? Where do we start? Me and you have been talking a lot, so you know, I want to give our viewers an opportunity to know about you. Like, where are you from? Where are you based out?
I am born and raised in Rochester, New York. I don't know if most of your base is in New York City. That is a small town in Western New York. I say small, but other than New York City, Buffalo is the second largest city in New York, and then Rochester is the third largest. So, but I mean, we only have Syracuse and Binghamton behind us, so that's not really a point of pride, but but that's where I'm from. I've lived here my entire life, other than to go to college.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, we've had a conversation. I was when I was incarcerated, I was in a facility that wasn't too far from Rochester. Um, Orleans Correctional Facility is um, a medium security facility that's up there, and most of the people who were there were from Rochester. So um, that's how I know about Rochester. I got a lot of friends from out of there, and that's one of the things that prompted me to your story. You know, some of the guys when I had posted on my page, some of the guys that I was incarcerated with from that area were talking about how good of a judge you were. It was like, yo, she's like a dope judge. Like, you know, she's for the people. She's not just trying to throw us in jail. She doesn't see us just as animals and criminals. Like, they had nothing but positive things to say about you. So I said I want to utilize my platform for the people that you know are trying to work with us and try to help us. What is?
Well, I told you. I'm sorry, to interrupt. I told you before. I have had several of my own personal family members incarcerated or in prison, or So I don't think I see people that based on what people do things all the time, but that doesn't dictate who you are as a person. That doesn't define your character. So. Especially in city court, I just deal with misdemeanors and violations. So there's really a lot of alternatives to incarceration when you're dealing with non-serious, non-violent crimes. You know what I mean? There's a lot of other things you can do, and it is less expensive than incarceration, and it is more beneficial to the individual as well as the community to look at those alternatives.
That's right, and that's always been my point of view. Like being incarcerated, seeing that there's so much things that a lot of these people could be doing, and such educated people, and they're very smart people, and there's so much other things that you can be doing to utilize their skills, utilize their mind, and a lot of times people are just basically in prison, just dying, So that's always been my perspective. What is your ethnicity?
My father is Puerto Rican and my mother is Black.
Oh, so you like my kid?
Yeah. Yeah.
Puerto Rican and Black. Okay.
Yeah.
That's dope. So Puerto Rican and Black. You're from Rochester. What made you want to get into law? What made you want to get into it?
Well, initially, to be honest with you, I was in around 11th grade and I had a job at Arby's. This was a while ago, so I'm dating myself, but I was making $4.15 an hour. And you couldn't tell me. I had a boyfriend who was an entrepreneur in so many words. And I was like, I go to work for fun. I'm going to drop out. He can take care of me. I'll work at Arby's and I'm done with school. Like, I'm tired of it. I hated school. Probably, I don't know, like from 6th grade on, I hated school. And in 11th grade, I got pregnant. And that kind of put the brakes on everything because I was like, oh man, I can't take care of this baby off of $4.15 an hour. And even though he had his little lucrative business, I was like, I can't live in a trap house with my baby.
That's right.
So everything, and it's crazy because I wasn't, and I hate to say this, but it's true. I wasn't important enough to myself to make those changes. I didn't value myself enough to do those things. But for my unborn child who was a little embryo, it was enough to say, no, I'm not doing this. I need a whole different lifestyle. So I went back to school and I started at MCC and I finished there. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do. I've always been really interested in English. I've always been, good with words and kind of a wordsmith. And I was like, man, I would love to argue with people for a living. That would be like the dopest job ever. And so I ended up, basically what happened is I got a flyer in the mail that said, we are looking for additional students in the School of Social Work, because I hadn't applied to law school. And they had a dual degree at UB for a master's in social work and a Juris Doctorate in law. So I applied to the School of Social Work literally like in August and got it. And I said, okay, I applied to law school and I only applied to UB. And I said God's plan, like kind of joking off of Drake, but I totally believe in that. I was like, if it's God's plan, then I'll get in. And if it's not, then I won't. I only applied to that one school. I didn't look at other schools. I wasn't going to go. And I got in. Once I got in, I was like, whoa, this is so cool. I can be a lawyer. I've always been interested in criminal law. So I took it from there.
So what was the process? Okay, so you went to criminal law and then you were a lawyer first. What was the process to become a judge?
Okay, so when I finished, first, like I said, I went to MCC. That is a community college. I got my associate's degree. Then I went to UB and typically a community college is a 2-year college. I got my associate's degree in 1 year because I was just trying to hurry up and get out of school and make some money. Then I went to UB, which is a 4-year college, and I got a degree in communications and English. That took me another 2 years. Then I stayed at UB and I got my master's in social work, and then I got a Juris Doctorate in law. So when you finish law school, you take the bar exam. You also, it's very interesting, you have to pass what's called character and fitness. Which is basically they look at your life and determine whether or not you have the proper moral turpitude to be an attorney. And I'm like, oh, you guys should have did this before I paid for law school. You should have found that out. Because if they say no, then you're out.
Well, after you just spent all this money to go to, that's crazy.
And I actually know a person who went and he had a delinquent RG&E bill, which is, Rochester Gas and Electric provides gas and electric services here. And it's not uncommon for people to have delinquent bills, unfortunately, that might not have even been their bills, that maybe a family member put in their name or whatever. And because of that, his application, his entry into the bar was held up for a year.
Wow.
Because they were like, you need to pay this bill because, lawyers are trusted with money and you might steal to try to pay off your debts. And it was like, or I might just get a job. Yeah. So he actually was delayed about a year from entering the bar because of a delinquent bill.
Wow.
So then after you pass character and fitness and you pass the bar, then you get admitted to the bar. I got admitted to the bar in New York State. And my first job actually out of law school was working at a not-for-profit. Mm-hmm. So at the time it was called Monroe County Legal Assistance Center. It is now called Law Assistance of Western New York. But basically it is a not-for-profit that employs attorneys that, get paid very little, but they are free attorneys for people in the community that otherwise wouldn't necessarily be able to afford attorneys.
Okay.
So I, for example, was in the public benefits unit. So people would come to me after they had been denied public assistance, and I would represent them at hearings in front of administrative law judges to fight for them to receive the benefits that they were entitled to.
Okay.
And we were very successful, which was really irritating because, if there are a lot of rules, if you're getting turned off, you have to say you're appealing in such amount of time. So even though you win in the long run, a person might be displaced from their home, they might end up in a shelter, they might not have food stamps until they get a hearing, which might be, a month later. So it was irritating, as crazy as that sounds, it was irritating to win because it's like you still disrupted this person's whole life. And they were right in the whole first place.
Okay.
So then from there, I was there and it was my first job and I started at $32,000 a year.
Wow. I want to ask somebody asked a good question. Is the character and fitness still a prerequisite to become a lawyer?
Yes.
Okay.
I can only speak to New York State. I'm only admitted in New York State. But in New York State, yes, you have to pass character and fitness.
Okay. All right.
So I was making like $32,000 a year, and I totally qualified for child care dollars, which here is like a supplement for low income people so that they can get daycare. I qualified for HEAP. I qualified for food stamps. And I was like, this is crazy. I can't live. I have $100,000 worth of debt from law school. And like, I shouldn't be taking HEAP from someone else when I could get a job and actually afford to pay my bills. You know, because when I left law school, I had 2 kids in tow now. So it wasn't like just me, you know, and I'm able to cut corners, and I had 2 children. So it's funny, I was going to go to the public defender's office because I've always been interested in criminal law. And a friend of mine who was in the Rochester Black Bar Association with me said, why are you going to go to the PD's office? And I kind of, you know, I don't know how we remained friends. I was like, I don't want to be in the DA's office sending all these Black men to prison, and I don't know how you live with yourself. And she was like, well, actually, you know, as a district attorney, you make offers. As a district attorney, if something's wrong, you have the ability to withdraw and dismiss cases. As a public defender, 9 times out of 10, you're just asking the DA to give you an offer. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really kind of deep. She's like, so if you're committed to social justice, and if that's what you believe in, then you need to be in the DA's office being the change you want to see. Right. So I was like, all right, I'll shut up. And I went and I applied and I got in. So I worked at the DA's office for about 4 years. You know, I started in local court, moved up to felonies, I ended up in the Domestic Violence and Child Abuse Bureau, which in Rochester at the time was basically predatory child sex cases. Mm. And then after the DA's office, I started my own practice.
Okay, so how long did you do your own practice?
I left the DA's office in 2011. And then in 2014, the friend that I was speaking about, she ran for city court and she won. And I had been getting kind of discouraged in private practice because she was right. I was asking people to give me offers, and I thought that what I wanted was reasonable, and they wouldn't always agree with me. And so it was really frustrating to be powerless in situations. So I had started feeling, you know, I believe in signs and the universe and all of that. And I started feeling like I was supposed to run for judge, but there was literally no seat that was available. There were only 9 city court judge seats. So the day of her swearing in ceremony, I was literally walking from the Hall of Justice back to my office, and I was arguing in my mind with God, right? Because I argue with everybody, and God knows who I am, so he's not upset about it. And I'm like, why are you bothering me to run for this seat that doesn't even exist? Like, you keep telling me I'm supposed to be a judge, but there's not even a seat in existence. And a friend of mine sent me a message on Facebook and was like, the legislature just created a 10th seat. Are you ready for this, Your Honor? And I was like, oh, you know, there's a verse that says he'll make a way out of no way. And there literally was no seat, and a seat was created. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that's mine. And I guess I'll shut up, and I guess I'll run for judge. So in 2014, I ran. It was crazy hard because I was not the chosen political candidate. I'm not political at all. I have no political affiliations. You know, my parents have GEDs. Like, I'm nobody. I'm not connected. Nobody knows me. And I'm a Democrat, and the Democrats did not support me. There was another candidate. He was a white prosecutor, and they supported him for the primary. And then there was another candidate. So if he failed, then there was another candidate who was, I think, Spanish and white, and he was running as well. And he was like the second choice. And I was just like the afterthought, like, oh, you're too young. You're too naive. It's not your turn. Basically, that was the main message. It's not your turn. Wait your turn. The machine's not going to support you, and you can't beat the machine. And I was like, well, we're going to see. And then I won. So, you know, I said, well, you know, if I can't beat the machine, then I guess I was wrong, and it's not my time. But I think it's my time, and I think I can do it. And so I just ran, and I won. And that was one of, by far, the proudest moments of my entire life, because going out, first of all, I think I told you my cousin that was murdered, who was a little, you know, in the streets, literally got him and his friends to go carry petitions for me, to wear T-shirts and march in parades. People who didn't care about voting came out and registered to vote in order to vote for me. So I was just beyond, you know, people are like, I've never voted before. I don't care about voting. I don't believe in this system, but I'll vote to vote for you because I believe in you. And it was just the most beautiful thing. I was so proud. It was the most beautiful thing that had ever happened.
So you was the people's champ, you know.
I was the people's champ.
You came out, you know, you represented, and people, you invigorated people and gave them that fire. Because a lot, you know, kind of like what Obama did. People didn't vote before that. Like people said, "Nah, we're gonna go vote," because you motivated them. So I know that must have been a crowd, you know.
I hesitate because Obama's like the classiest, coolest person in the. But I did feel like a little baby Obama, like, oh my God, you're gonna vote just so you can vote for me. I was so honored. It was a really and also the thing that I liked is I was really scared, to be honest with you, because I know how politicians are. I know that I say what I mean. You know, I know that I'm not very polished. I know that even if I don't agree with you and I try to modify my words, you're going to see all over my face that I'm like. So I was very worried about meeting people and talking to them and how they would, you know, if they would be receptive to me or not. And people loved it. People were like, you are not a politician. You say what you mean. You say how you feel. And they wanted that. They wanted someone who was, even if I didn't agree with them, they wanted someone who was honest and who would take the time to speak to them and explain their perspective. So that was really, really a good feeling too, because that was one of the scariest things to me. I'm like, I don't want to talk to them. They're going to realize that like I'm far right. And no, people are fine.
So what was it like when you were elected judge? How was it? How was the first couple of months? How was, you know, your peers? How did they respond? Like, how was the system? How did they embrace you?
Well, if we're talking about on the bench, that was interesting. There were judges, you know, I had been in private practice and I don't know, can you see that? Yeah. I'm sorry.
I hear it. I can't see it.
I made it be quiet. I had been in private practice and I had been in. Can you hold on for 1 second? I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Hold on for 1 second.
Open the door. Okay, sorry. I had been in private practice and I had been in the district attorney's office. So there were judges that I liked and I respected a lot. And, you know, they were judges that I wanted to emulate on the bench. And there were judges that I didn't like so much. And I didn't have a great deal of respect for. And I didn't have any interest at all whatsoever in emulating them. So I guess the best way to put it would be the judges that I liked and I got along with. It was like, hey, welcome to the part, you know, this is the coolest job, and we were all fine. The judges that I didn't necessarily get along with beforehand, nothing really changed in that regard.
So what do you think was the disconnect with the judges you didn't get along with? Or what was the things about the judges you got along with? What was the connection between you guys?
Well, in city court, in Rochester at least, there's a set of basically younger judges and a set of older judges. And generally speaking, the older judges are more formal and they might tend to be stricter when it comes to sentencing. And the younger judges are basically the opposite. You know, they are more informal. I'm probably the least formal in fairness, but they're more informal. They are not as strict when it comes to sentencing. They are not, you know, they're less aggressive, I want to say. That might not be the right word, but they're more lenient towards attorneys. They realize, hey, you practice in a bunch of courts. You know what I mean? You have a bunch of other obligations. You might be late to my court because you're in, you know, all the courts start at 9:30. So if you have 5 appearances, I was just in private practice. If you have 5 appearances, I'm a fool to think that you can be in 5 places at 9:30. That's not possible. You would
identify with the struggle, so your leniency level is higher than the okay.
Right. Or like, for example, one of the things that I would do, you know, we would finish our docket. We would finish our docket quickly. I speak very quickly. That's just the way that I talk. And so often I would just sit on the bench because if kids had school, I would tell them, come to court after school. I'm not going to give you a warrant, but you don't belong in court and you do belong in school. So come to court after you finish school. So sometimes, you know, we would have a 2 o'clock docket And we would just be chilling, hanging out, me, the PD, the DA, my court clerk, the deputies. And I'd be like, we're just going to sit here until 3:30. We're going to sit here until they come, because they shouldn't be leaving school to come to court. I'm not having that. Okay. Or if we were finished with court and somebody who wasn't in school came, let's say it's 11 o'clock, we've locked the doors and we're still there, but we're done. I wouldn't say come back at 2 o'clock. I would say unlock the doors, let them in. We're going to call the case right now.
So pretty much, you were probably one of the most progressive judges in opposition to being a conservative judge. So the conservative judges was really like, she's just way over the top.
And I also didn't often set bail.
That was a problem.
I have some issues with bail. You're presumed innocent, so why am I going to make you stay in jail until we get to figure out, what's going on? So I wasn't a big fan of bail. I would release people to pretrial a lot, and I didn't often incarcerate people or place them on probation because, again, as I said, I was dealing with misdemeanors.
Wait. So you wasn't sending people to jail?
I was dealing with misdemeanors.
Oh, jail? Oh man, you was making them people mad. They was losing some dollars in their mind.
I didn't get paid any less or any more to incarcerate or not incarcerate people.
What was the mind state that you had by like not incarcerating when you didn't give people bail for crimes that they weren't convicted of? What was the mind state that goes with it? Because some people, I guess they were probably just saying and they said, "Oh, she just want to let people go and this and that." What was your your reasoning?
Well, I intentionally wanted to be a city court judge. I did not, and I do not have any aspirations to run for county court or Supreme Court. I have no interest. I don't want to deal with rapes. I don't want to deal with murders. I don't want to deal with violent felonies. I don't want anyone to tell me, you get to county court and you have mandatory minimums. I'm not interested in the legislature telling me that I have to send someone to prison for a certain length of time. I want nothing to do with that. In city court, I get to determine what the appropriate sanction is. And I'm not dealing with those serious cases. Okay. So I don't think it's necessary to impose a serious sentence for a non-serious offense. Okay. First of all, I think that jail was initially created to be a reform program, basically a reformatory, and we were supposed to be rehabilitating people, and you would go get counseling, you get drug treatment, you get, but now we're literally stockpiling people. And that was my opinion previously, but I've actually been to jail now. And you're just bored out of your mind. I don't know, last time I went to jail, I probably read at least 30 books. All I would do is read, write, and exercise. I'm not learning anything. I already have a degree, but if I didn't, it would just be a total waste of my time.
That's so that brings us up to speed. Speaking of jail, okay. So, what were you arrested for?
Initially, I was arrested and charged with driving while intoxicated.
Okay.
I've been arrested a lot of times at this point.
Okay, so your initial arrest was driving while intoxicated.
Yes.
It's a little of what happened to get, so we can get a little understanding of what happened. Because when you just think about that, and then to understand how the media has carried this on this long, and it's to my mind, I'm like, did they pull you over and you had a gun? Did you shoot somebody? Did you punch the officer in the face? Like, it has to be a little more. So can you just give us a brief understanding of the steps within this, this encounter?
Absolutely. So it's February 13th, 2016. It was literally to the day, a year from the date that my little cousin was murdered. And he got murdered at like 7:30 in the morning. It was like 7:30 in the morning. There had been a snowstorm that started in Rochester that either Wednesday or Thursday. I think it started Wednesday, and it continued till Tuesday. Okay. And we hadn't really had winter prior to that, so we couldn't complain a lot, but it started and it didn't stop. And it was like crazy snowstorm, right? So on Monday, I think the county was closed. By Tuesday, the Hall of Justice had closed because pipes had broke. Like, it was a crazy Rochester storm. I don't think you guys get snow like that there. So I didn't have court on Friday because it was a holiday. Saturday morning, I did have court. I had arraignments from, the weekend, anyone who was arrested over the holiday. So I got up that morning and I was just kind of in a pissy mood, because I was missing my cousin. I was angry. So I was like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to start my day off right. I always feel good about myself when I go exercise. So I'm going to go to the gym. So I was driving to the Elm Grove YMCA, which is a gym that I don't usually go to. I go to Pittsford, but they had a class that I like called Body that started at 8 o'clock that morning. It's a weightlifting class. I was going to lift weights. En route, I believe that my tire blew out. I was in the far left lane. My tire blew out. My car kind of jerked to the left. I was able to right it, get over to the shoulder. I called a friend and said, hey, I have a flat. I am sitting in the car. It's a blizzard. I'm not getting out. I'll wait for you. I need you to come fix my tire and or probably bring me to work, because my friend lived in Webster, which is a suburb, and it's super icy on the bridge. And I knew it was going to take him a while to get there. So I'm like, by the time you get here, you're probably going to have to bring me to work. But I had on sneakers. I had on yoga pants. I had on a t-shirt and a hoodie. Like, I wasn't dressed for work, but I also wear a robe, and I always keep real shoes in the back. So it didn't matter much. You know, my hair was a little bit of a mess, but, but I wasn't going to be late. So I'm waiting for him. And while I'm waiting, a trooper pulls up behind me. And he comes to the window and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I got a flat. And he said, were you in an accident? And I said, no. Now, I knew that when this happened, I might have hit the median because I hit the rumble strips. You know, my car was like shaking, but I didn't think, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but I've gotten into accidents before and my car has been totally fine. I didn't think that my car was messed up. When I got out of my car, in all fairness, it was messed up. And my face was like, oh, shoot, I didn't realize I really hurt my car. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, oh, you didn't know that you had this damage? I'm like, no, I've been sitting in the car. I wasn't getting out, you know, on the side of the expressway in a blizzard. Cars are going off the road. No, I was just waiting for someone to come get me. So it's around 7. I think he said it was 7:53 when this original conversation occurred. And he said to me, what's that fruity smell? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what you're smelling. I put mango butter in my hair. I use an apricot scrub on my face. I put coconut oil on my body. You know, like what fruit are you smelling? I can try to point you to where it's coming from. And I was chewing gum. So he said, it smells like alcohol. And I was like, oh, we're going to do this. No, I'm outside. You're outside in a blizzard and I'm chewing gum. You don't smell alcohol. Cut it out. So, no.
Press the wrong thing. She'll be tuning back in. Give her a second. A little technical difficulties. She probably pressed the button. But if you're just tuning in, we have Leticia Astacio, judge out of Rochester, who's been in the news lately, who was arrested for DWI. And since then, she's been rearrested and remanded into custody a few times. She's given us a full understanding of her case, gave us some background.
Can you see me now?
Okay, yeah, I see you. She's back. Leticia Astacio. Okay.
I can see you, and it says that I'm live, but I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No, you're like totally frozen.
Oh, she can't hear me. I don't know. Can you see? It's totally frozen. She doesn't see me. Hello? Hello? Until she tunes in, we're gonna I guess she's gonna try to find her way back in.
I think it's a no.
Talking to you guys. You can hear her. But she can't hear us. Leticia Astacio, she's a judge out of Rochester, giving us. Am I frozen? Do you see me? I know you guys can see her. I don't know what's going on with our technical difficulty. Our team is working to fix it as we speak. She looks like she's working to fix it as we speak. Can you hear me, Leticia?
You totally can't hear me.
I hear you, but you can't hear me.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you. I hear you.
Okay.
I hear you. So, technical difficulty. This is an excellent interview, man. She
What?
was just about to get in. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you anymore.
You can't see me?
No? I guess that's okay. We can still talk. Can you see me?
I can see you. We can see you. So just keep talking.
Okay. So good enough. So I don't even remember where I was, but long story short, he says, were you drinking this morning? And I was like, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. No, I don't get drunk at 7 a.m. And he goes, oh, well, when was the last time that you drank? And I was like, I'm not going to play this game with you. I've consumed alcohol in my lifetime, and we're done. Like, I'm not going to do this with you. And I didn't know him, and I felt like he had an attitude. And so I very quickly got an attitude myself. So again, it's about 7:53 when he initially approaches me, and he says, okay, well, that's fine. Come sit in my car. And I said, oh, no, thank you. I'll sit in my car. My friend's on his way. He'll be here in a second. No worries. I'm good. You know, you can just go on about your business. And he said, oh, okay, well, then you're under arrest. And I was like, for what? He said, for DWI. I said, you don't have sufficient probable cause to place me under arrest. The odor of alcohol that was initially the odor of fruit, you can't arrest me for that. And at that point, I guess, like, it's just who I am to say what I think and to try to stand up for myself if I feel like someone's trying to bully me. But in retrospect, I think that he felt very offended. He didn't know I was a judge. I didn't tell him I was a judge. He felt like I was, you know, who knows who, and I'm getting smart with him and I'm trying to tell him the law because his demeanor got significantly more aggressive. So at that point, I was like, you don't have enough to arrest me. And he was like, well, you gonna resist arrest? And I was like, nope, let's get in the car. So I got in his car and I'm continuing to argue with him. And I'm, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Conversation over. I don't have to speak to you. I've been trying to comply with you. It hasn't worked out. Done talking to you. I don't know what you'll do. You already arrested me in violation of my constitutional rights. For all I know, you could shoot me.
Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Game. No, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Did he give you a breathalyzer at that point before he put you in the trunk?
No. It's not even 8 o'clock yet.
Oh, okay.
So, from 7:53 to 8 o'clock, I'm under arrest. I'm in the car against my will. This has literally transpired, in an instant.
Okay.
So, no, and to be honest with you, breathalyzers are not something that you can do roadside. In order to take a breathalyzer, you have to go back to the station unless they have a breathalyzer unit on scene. So you have to actually be transported back to the troopers barracks in order to take a breathalyzer test. Breathalyzer tests are calibrated. They're sent in for service. They have ampoules that have to be measured, and you know what I mean? So they can't do that roadside.
Okay.
So roadside, but after I was arrested, I said, you're making a mistake. And I think this annoyed him too. I said, look, you don't know what you're doing. Call some of these other people that actually do DWIs. And I started listing off troopers that made a lot of DWI arrests and one RPD officer. And I think that irritated him as well. And I was like, okay, well, let's do this instead. Let's take field sobriety test. And he said, we'll take the standardized. I said, I can't have a brain injury. I showed him my scar on the back of my head from brain surgery. I think I showed you. Look, I'll show you guys all too. It's just this beautiful little scar that I have. I showed him my scar because at first he goes, you're a judge. How can you make decisions if you have a brain injury? How do you, dictate what happens with people's lives? And I got pissed. I was like, disrespectful.
Yeah, that's
You're just, because at this point, I'm like, you're disrespectful. I don't know how you would make that conclude or come to that conclusion. So I said, you can't even ask me. Under NHTSA, the National Highway of Traffic Safety, you can't ask me to take standardized field sobriety tests once I tell you that I have a brain injury that prevents me from completing them. So you need to give me the alphabet test, or you have to give me the cognitive test. So he gave me the alphabet test. He told me to say C through T without singing, without stopping, and I did. And then he asked me to count backwards from, I believe, 72 to 59, and I did. And then he goes, well, you're still under arrest. He's like, okay, well, great. So in the interim, a friend of mine who was also an attorney came, and he sat and he spoke with me, and he actually testified at my trial that he had known her 10 years and that my speech wasn't slurred, I wasn't intoxicated, I was upset, and I was angry because I understood the potential ramifications, but that I wasn't drunk. And we talked for a bit, and the trooper then asked if I would take a roadside breath test, which is a machine that the troopers keep typically inside of their glove compartment. It is not calibrated. It is not sent in for testing. It is not reliable in terms of taking an act.
Reason.
Because obviously there are multiple reasons for mouth alcohol. You know, some foods that you eat can be detected as mouth alcohol. I set off the ignition interlock in my car once because I was eating pizza. There's a lot of other reasons, which is why it's not admissible in court. And after speaking to my friend, he said, please just take it. He's saying that he will unarrest you and we can avoid, what this will all turn into. So just do it. And I didn't want to, but I did. I believe I took it 4 times. He said that the first 3 times those didn't work or there was a problem. And the 4th time he said that it did work and he got a reading and it was a high reading. The difference between a breath test, an actual breath test, and a roadside test as well is that the roadside test doesn't actually print out any type of receipt. So the trooper in this case would see whatever number he said he saw, and that's it. There's no record of it anywhere.
So he just pretty much, he gave you a test, told you what he saw, and based on that, you were arrested.
I was already arrested because he smelled fruit.
He justify or say, look, this test, I took a test.
Right. And to be honest, the test showed I was under arrest. He was going to arrest me. He wasn't going to arrest me. I was arrested, period.
So
I just said that.
Where you take the test?
I'm sorry?
I said, where are you when you take the test? Where are you at? In the car?
I'm in the back seat of the car on the side of the road.
Okay, so you get back to the precinct, and what happened? So you get back to the precinct, and what happened?
I'm sorry?
I said, so when you got back to the precinct, you were arraigned or whatever?
I came to the precinct. I actually, en route, I'm not even going to lie, I cursed at him. I yelled at him. I told him that he was ruining my life for no apparent reason, that he would never obtain a conviction for DWI, that there was no probable cause, that the whole case would get tossed. But because of who I was, people would think that I had received some type of favoritism. No one would ever actually believe that, I was unjustly arrested. And when I got to the station, I calmed down. I kind of just accepted, what it was. And I said, look, I'm sorry that I spoke to you that way. I'm very upset. I'm not intoxicated. You're wrong, but you're doing what you think you have to do. So I apologize for being irate. I got fingerprinted. I got a mugshot taken of me, which was just the craziest thing ever. And then I got released.
Wow. Okay, so you got released. What happens after that?
Well, it's very interesting. Literally prior to me leaving the trooper station, my mugshot and the information was broadcast on the news. Wow. So before I even leave, it's already been to the media. And that day, another girl happened to get into a car accident. Well, she didn't get into a car accident. She happened to run a person over at RIT. It was a blizzard. So there was actually a lot of accidents that day. And I don't know I think the person was already laying in the road, but when the police came, they thought she was intoxicated. They tested her. She was intoxicated. And so the news was saying a Rochester City Court judge was arrested and a woman arrested for DWI killed a person at RIT. So my family was going crazy because it was making it seem like they were putting the two cases together, like where, and they're calling me and I'm not answering, and they don't understand that I'm still getting arrested because, they're thinking if it's on the news, it must be over. Yeah. But it wasn't over. So that was that. And then I just kind of went into my house and ceased to exist for a little while. I was just traumatized and in disbelief. And then, you wait, you get arraigned, and then you have a hearing, and ultimately you have a trial.
So what happened? What was the next time you were to court? Were you taken into custody? When was the first time after that arrest and you released? When was you taken into custody again?
When was that? So I wasn't taken into custody again until, okay, so that occurred in February.
Okay.
Of 2016. Then in August of 2016, after a bench trial, because we talked about the possibility of having a jury trial, and because the number from the roadside breath test had been leaked, and because people generally don't like judges or elected officials, my attorney advised me to have a bench trial, which I was concerned about on some levels because, you know, that's a lot of pressure on a judge to say, I'm going to do this. There I'm going to go. So that was in August. I got convicted. In I think maybe March, I got charged with violating the terms and conditions of my conditional discharge. That was dismissed.
So when you were convicted,
I'm sorry?
What was your sentence after you?
Sentence, well, it's interesting. I was sentenced to a conditional discharge with the minimums, but I wasn't actually sentenced to the minimums because there was a caveat that I was to abstain from alcohol for a year, which is not part of the minimum sentence. The minimum sentence is that you pay a $500 fine, a $395 surcharge, that you have your license suspended, and that you can get a 20-day stay, but I wasn't granted a 20-day stay, that you attend the drinker driver panel and the victim impact panel. And I'm trying to remember, it's a 6 months license revocation, but you can get, you know, a hardship license in the interim because my refusal, the refusal to the breath test was ultimately thrown out. So I think that's everything that you would normally sentence to if you got the minimums. But there was a violation in November that actually had occurred in September or October for consuming alcohol. And I went in and I pled guilty, and I said to the judge and I said to everyone, I said, look, this time I actually am guilty. I didn't realize that you were saying I couldn't consume alcohol because that's not part of the minimums. And you said I was sentenced to the minimums. But I'll tell you this, after I got convicted, it was pretty much the lowest period that I had ever been in my life. And I was definitely self-medicating. I was definitely drinking heavily. I was definitely like in total and utter shock because I had never, ever even remotely considered that a conviction was a possibility. That had never entered my mind. So that ended, and then in like March, I got charged with a bunch of that ultimately were dismissed. I got charged for holding a solo cup. They said if I was holding a solo cup, I must have been drinking alcohol. Like, it was just crazy. So after that all happened in March, I was just tired of, like, I was all over the news all the time. Couldn't go anywhere in Rochester without people knowing me and talking to me and having opinions about me. My birthday is in May, and my birthday came and I was feeling kind of down and I wasn't allowed to go to work. I hadn't been allowed to go to work since November. I had no more court appearances. I had nothing else I had to do. So I went to Thailand. Because I was like having a hard time finding peace, and I've always wanted to go to Thailand. I've read Eat, Pray, Love, and I thought that that would be a super cool trip to take to kind of refill my cup. So I went to Thailand, and I didn't have any reason to come back until August. I had a surgical procedure scheduled in August, but prior to that, I had nothing. So I told the kids, like, look, we can hang out here, we can stay here, you guys can come when school's over, we'll come back when we're tired of being here. Apparently on May 15th, Judge Aronson had ordered a test be done. Now, he indicated that to my attorney. It wasn't communicated to me. On May 27th, which was a Friday in Rochester, it was a Saturday in Thailand, at around 4:30 in the afternoon, so it was about 4:30 in the morning in Thailand, he ordered that I appear in court on Tuesday, the 30th, at 12 o'clock. My attorney emailed me, and I didn't have phone service in Thailand, but I did have email. He emailed me at 4:30 in the morning. I emailed him back immediately.
Okay. So you emailed him back immediately. They ordered you to have a test.
Look, Tuesday at temple with monks. I'm in Asia. I can't come to court on Tuesday. It's already Saturday. And Monday was a holiday. So he's like, okay, you know, I'll ask for an adjournment. No worries. Tuesday comes, he asked for an adjournment. The judge, who knew I was in Asia when he scheduled that court date, says, no, I'm not giving you an adjournment. I'm issuing a bench warrant, no bail, no release. And good luck to your client getting back in the country with an outstanding warrant. So, crazy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You are a judge. And,
Yeah.
is this like something typical? Like the thing that what I'm getting is the treatment that you get from someone who's like a career criminal. Like when I hear the way that the way that you're being treated, the way all these things, like you would think that you were a career criminal and you come into a judge's courtroom and he's tired of seeing you, and he just thinks that you just need to go to jail. Like I don't. Is this like typical response? Have you seen prior to this happening to you? Have you ever seen this happen to a judge, or you have heard of it happen to another judge?
There's a newscaster here who actually wrote an opinion, and he kind of went over all the judges in New York State that have ever been incarcerated. And all of the other judges had been convicted of felony offenses or violent offenses. Most of them were federal cases with like serious fraud or embezzlement, or like serious cases where they did years. There's never been a judge that has been sentenced to jail, DWI. And I can't speak for other judges, but I know that for me personally, if I schedule a court date for a person that is in Rochester and they don't show up, and their attorney says, "Judge, I don't know where my client is. Can you give me a week to find them?" Mm-hmm. My answer is always yes. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be here next week anyway. I'll give you a week. Tell your client to come next week because I don't want to issue a warrant. But if they don't come to court, I don't have a choice. So that is what I would do. I would, and I don't do that once and the next time it's a no. And if that person has a history, I still will give them a week. I'm going to be there anyway. So I personally would not typically issue a warrant for a person that literally has never previously been arrested, has never failed to miss a court appearance, has never had a bench warrant in their entire life, and is in Asia when I schedule the court date with literally no business days notice. That's not something I would personally do because, you have to give notice. If I wanted to sue you for me right now, I would have to give you notice under the CPF. I would have to give you a certain number of days in order to make sure that you knew, and I would have to serve you. So I would have to prove that you actually received the notice that you had court. Mm-hmm. So the idea that my liberty could be taken away without any proper service, no one ever confirmed that I received notice of court, and to say, oh, well, notice was mailed to your house. Well, typically that works. Typically there's the mailbox rule. But if you mail something to my house knowing that I'm in Asia, then it kind of defeats, you know what I mean? You can't rely on that anymore. So I was very surprised.
Okay, so I just want to know, like, when you're going through this and you sit in front of this, did you feel like you were being targeted? Did you feel like I know for me, I would have sat there and listened to this thing and said, this has to be some personal vendetta. This has to be more than just this case. There has to be more than this DWI that I'm being tried for, that I'm going through this. Did you feel that you were personally being targeted? Did you feel that this judge has something against you?
To be honest, what I thought when this happens, right, I immediately come back from Thailand. I'm back by the next week. I book a flight, I come back, and I'm back in Rochester. I get back on Sunday. I have a meeting on Monday with the administrative judge, and directly after that meeting, I intend to turn myself in. Right. And I knew that the judge was coming in from Ontario County. He was actually going to be in Rochester. So my attorney's like, yeah, he's going to be here. They're probably going to take you into custody. They're going to make you do a perp walk. And I was like, okay, fine. You want to shame me, whatever. This is a big case. It's gotten a ton of publicity. There's probably a lot of pressure on you to do something. So I go, I'll go in, I'll get booked. And it was crazy because the deputies didn't take my shoes. They didn't change my clothes. They didn't take my jewelry. They're like, yeah, right. You're getting right back out. This is just like, everybody thought that it was just to be a little shaming thing. Cause everybody's like, well, you came home. Like, you don't normally leave a foreign country and come back to your country and then go to jail. Cause that's kind of the opposite of what a flight risk is. You know what I mean? Like, if you're already gone and you come back, that's not a flight risk at all. So I thought, all right, whatever, it's fine. I had on my handcuffs and I was like, this is so humiliating, but it's totally fine. And then I went in front of him and he said a lot of things that I was very surprised by. Very incredibly surprised by.
This where the viral video? Is this the point where the
No, that's after. So the first video that I ever saw that you posted, that was after I had already been in jail for like 30 days. I ended up doing 45 days because after the hearing, he said that although I was allowed to go to Thailand, I shouldn't have gone to Thailand. And I constructively violated the terms of my conditional discharge by leaving the jurisdiction.
You got to say that one more time. You said what?
He said that even though based on the terms and conditions, I was allowed to go to Thailand, I shouldn't have gone. And I constructively violated the terms and conditions of my conditional discharge by leaving the jurisdiction.
That's unbelievable. That is unbelievable to hear.
So he sentenced me. I asked to be sentenced to straight time. I said, okay, you know, if that's how you feel, that's fine. I don't understand how there was a violation here. So I'm asking, since that's a possibility, after having been on a conditional discharge for 11 months, if you can now send me to jail, then I would just like a straight time sentence because I don't want to do this again in the future. And he said no. He said he was sentencing me to the maximum possible term of 45 days in jail, because you know 45 days is 60 days, and 3 years probation. And I went back to jail. And then when I got out of jail, I actually was charged with violating the terms and conditions of my probation literally the day that I was released. So the law says, you know, when a person is placed on probation, you have to give them terms and conditions at sentencing. I didn't get written terms and conditions. So when I got out of jail, I was like, I don't have to go to probation. I didn't get terms and conditions. I'm not actually on probation. And my attorney said, please go. You're a judge. You know that you should go. You should do the right thing here. So I went to probation, and there was a monitor, and I was like, I don't have to pay for that monitor to be on my leg. I don't have to pay for that. The law very clearly says I don't have to pay for it. I'm not paying for it. And they said, please just pay for it. You don't want to be in the news. You want this to go away. Please just be cooperative. And I said, okay. I didn't want to be in the news anymore. I didn't, you know, it's humiliating. I didn't want to deal with that. So I did those things, and literally that day, they said that I violated probation by consuming alcohol. On my own accord, I went and got a hair follicle ETG test. So a woman literally cut my hair from my scalp in like 5 different places, cut out patches of my hair and tested them. And she was able to test back for 90 days to determine alcohol consumption based on the follicle of your hair. Now, the interesting thing was that that ETG test went back to, so I was supposed to have, you know, this urine test done by, I think, May 21st. And the hair follicle test that I got once I got out of jail went back to that time period when I was in Thailand. And it showed that I hadn't consumed any alcohol.
So my thing, you a judge. This is like I'm blown away by this whole situation. You're a judge. You get a DWI.
Yes.
Okay, whether it is you did, you didn't, whatever. Okay, if you did, if you were shit-faced drunk, I just want to know where was the process to try to help you instead of trying to incarcerate you and lock you up. What was put in place to say, okay, we don't want you to drink for a year. We think you have a drinking problem. We think that you do, but we're not. What are we doing as your peers, people that understand what you're going through to try to help you? Are we sitting around? What was in place to try to help you? It seems like everything that they did was to put something in front of you so to see you fall. Well,
one of the conditions is that you get a drug or alcohol evaluation, and I did get one, and it didn't recommend any treatment. When I went back for the violation of conditional discharge for the incident where I said, yeah, I was totally drinking heavily now, I got another drug and alcohol evaluation, and they said, you don't really qualify as having an alcohol abuse disorder. You don't. You're saying that you were depressed and you were drinking, so maybe you should see a therapist and deal with your depression, but you're depressed because you just got convicted of a crime and you're a judge. So they said, we can kind of create this program for you. We don't think you should go to rehab. We think you should go to relapse prevention to just try to find other methods of coping because this isn't going away right now. And I did it. I completed the program. It was like a 10-week program. I got urine screens regularly. I got blood tests. And again, I was like, okay, the point is for me to be ashamed and embarrassed. And I totally am. I'm totally humiliated. I will eat this and I will go, be embarrassed.
Why I just don't understand it. You're somebody, a civil servant of the law. You didn't violate anything. You get into one mishap. And it's so indicative of what the justice system is to most of us that aren't even involved in the system. We make one mistake and our whole lives are completely taken from us. And this brings me to something. I just want to ask, have you been keeping up with Meek Mill's case?
I have. It's very interesting. His case seems incredibly similar to, I see a lot of similarities between his case and my case, a lot.
And where are those similarities? Where do you see those?
Well, his case is pending, so I can't speak to his specifically, but in my case, for example, the violation that I ended up going to jail for, the one when I was in Thailand, probation notified the judge of what is referred to as a bad blow on ignition interlock. And in that notice, because they're required to by law, in that notification, they said, look, there's not a photo of any person. The bad blow was probably mouth alcohol. The level is consistent with toothpaste or mouthwash. Then a person is shown in the photo and they probably just rinsed their mouth. We don't want any violation filed here. We don't think that we don't even know if this was her. The person who blows in is not her. And, she can't really get violated for someone else failing the ignition interlock test. We just wanted to notify you. And the district attorney was like, yeah, no, we don't want to do anything here. They had just lost a hearing. And the judge was like, well, I am concerned. So on my own motion, I am going to, enforce this requirement, which I thought was a little odd. When the violation of probation came about, probation said, she wasn't drinking. Like, I took a urine ETG test that proved that I hadn't consumed any alcohol, which is what he wanted when I was in Thailand. That was, the letter of the law. I took like 4 of them. It showed I hadn't consumed alcohol. Probation said she wasn't drinking. We don't want to file a violation here. Just let it go. But we have to inform you because we have to inform you. And the DA is like, we'll defer to probation. And the judge is like, I want a violation filed. So that was kind of weird to me. That was incredibly weird. Another thing that was weird is that, when there's a violation of probation can be told. It doesn't have to be told. In my case, the judge determined that probation should be told. So even though I had been on probation for like 6 months, I was only on probation for 1 month after the tolling. And it's like, okay, let's just assume arguendo that I'm totally an alcoholic, right? Who cares? The purpose of probation is to help people get jobs, to help them get education, to help them not get arrested. I'm 36 years old, but for these conditions, me drinking alcohol is totally legal. There's no allegations that I'm ever drinking and driving. Me drinking alcohol is legal. So it's odd to have a probationer who's on probation for the purposes of ensuring that they don't consume alcohol when they've had like 4 evaluations say that they don't have an alcohol problem. My understanding about Meek's case is that there have been several instances where other players in the criminal justice system have said, no, let's stop. And somehow that hasn't stopped it. And that seems odd to me. Also, I think a similarity is, he's a rapper and he's kind of famous. And this is one of the problems. In New York, we don't put people on probation for 10 years unless they have a sex offense. But when a person is placed on probation, there's a lot of discretion given to their probation officer and the judge. So, you can violate probation by picking up new crimes, or you can violate probation by, not showing up to an appointment because your car broke down. And either way, you still violate it and you can still go to jail.
I think that's my problem with probation. I think for probation, you are able to receive felony crime for something that isn't even labeled a violation under the law. You can get felony time, like during this probation period, they're able to give this man 2 to 4 years for doing a Papa Willie and breaking up a fight. And to me, that's just like, I don't understand how you are able to give them the crime, if they went to the jail, they wouldn't even be able to receive any level of jail time. But under the probation, you are able to impose upon them levels of time incarcerated that would equate to a felony.
So in New York, that would mean that he's on felony probation. And I assume that he is for a 10-year term. And basically the point of probation is you have to finish the entire term. And if you mess up at any point in that 10 years, which seems like so much to me. In New York, the longest term is 5 years, unless, like I said, it's a sex offense. If you mess up, you can be sentenced to whatever you could have originally been sentenced to. And so even if you've done 3 years on probation, which might be what you would have served if you initially got jail, you can still get 3 years in jail because it didn't count since you didn't finish.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like the conditions of the probation, they're not even common sense. Like you said, they're giving you for actually just drinking alcohol. Not that you're driving while you're drunk. Not that you did anything, that there was a crime committed in anything, just for certain conditions. And I think to continue to throw you in prison, I don't understand how that was to help you. I don't understand. To me, it never seems like there was any good effort on the side of the law for someone who donated and dedicated their life to the law to even give you a level of, give you the benefit of the doubt or any level of hope. And to me, that's what I think. That's my biggest problem with the situation. I see a woman speaking to you, someone who's genuine, who honestly really wanted change, who honestly came from communities that were over incarcerated, seen it happen to a lot, understood the perils that we deal with in the inner city, and went actually under what this country is supposed to be about, justice. You actually went to the bench with the hope of justice, and to see you perk walked. How many times have you actually been locked up since this case? So.
Oh my God. Probably like 6 or 7, and probably, I may be perp walked again tomorrow.
And what's happening tomorrow?
Tomorrow I'm being arraigned on a violation of probation. And because I'm on probation to this judge, you're not entitled to bail on a violation of probation. So he can take me into custody without bail, which is, everybody was really offended. Everybody was very upset when I said, I don't want to be on probation. My attorney said, well, she's not going to, she's going to immediately not go to probation and she's going to break the law. And everybody's like, how dare you say you're going to break the law? Well, that's not actually what I said. My attorney was making a legal argument. In New York State, people often refuse probation. They say, no, thank you. What's my straight time sentence? And the judges will typically tell them, in straight time, I would give you this. So I was saying, no, I don't want to play this game. I don't want to go to jail when you decide I have to go to jail. I'll just eat this year right now. A year is 8 months, and I've already got my commissary account set up. I've already got my sports bras, my socks, my sweatpants. I'm already here. I already have a bunk. I already have stuff. I don't want to come back later whenever you feel like it. I'd rather just get it over with now, because I kind of foresaw this situation occurring. That's the first time. You see my face? That's the first time I went to jail, when I literally had come back from Thailand, and I'm like, this is the opposite of fleeing. I came back to the country for this. So I was very confused. So that's embarrassing, the perp walk, and everybody gets very upset because I smile and they're like, she doesn't take this seriously. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that in my community, people still constantly reach out to me and talk to me. You have no idea how many young girls or young people in general have said, like, every time I see you go to court, and they've said such horrible things about you, and they publish, this craziness, and people threaten you and they call you racial slurs, and you're there and you're dressed up and you show up and you have your head held high. And even when you go into custody, you hold your head high, you put a smile on your face, you refuse to let these people break you. This isn't just about me. I'm carrying a whole community on my back. This isn't just about me. I'm trying to show everyone who's ever felt disenfranchised, or like they couldn't do it, or they were a teen mom, or they weren't smart enough, or they don't come from the right side of the tracks, that's all irrelevant. They can make it, they can be just fine, they can overcome, they can be in this situation. And, you know, I tell people, like, all my life I had to fight. So this is not news to me. And you don't give up, you keep going, because it's not just about you. You know, this is a bigger system that we're trying to take on. I never, ever in a million years thought that I would be taking it on in this way. This was never my plan. You know, never. I've never been arrested before this in my life. And when it happens, I'm like, man, I'm so boring. Like, if I'm gonna go to jail every day, you would think that I'm having a good time. Like, I'm out here turned. I'm at home reading books. I'm like the most boring criminal in the world. But I don't want anyone to think that I'm broken. I don't want, you know, people say that they feel inspired, and that keeps me going, because this has been beyond tragic. You know, there have been days where I've just like laid in the bed, and you know, I've had conversations. My children have visited me in jail.
I know that feeling. So you're going to court tomorrow.
Yes, I always go to court when I'm in the country.
Whenever you're in the country, this is probably going to be, God forbid, if they take you in custody, it will probably be about the 7th time that you've been pretty much incarcerated for something that started out as a DWI.
As unclassified misdemeanor, yes.
Misdemeanor. This is probably going to be the 7th.
And I've done, as I told you before, I've done over 3 months already on this. So it's kind of odd for me to still be on probation, because the max probation term, I mean, the max incarceration term you can serve on misdemeanor probation is typically 60 days. So, which is why when the judge sentenced me, he said on the record, I'm sentencing you to the maximum possible sentence. And then somehow I still went back to jail.
So basically, you're going to court for this violation, and you're gonna fight. Since it's still in court, we're not going to speak on it right now. Right.
I mean, I can't say what's going to happen. I can tell you that I'm getting arraigned tomorrow, and I fully intend to speak. You know, a defendant has a right to speak at an arraignment for violation of probation. I intend to speak. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the cameras will be there. It'll be.
So where are you going to go to court? We want people to be able to know that if they want to show up to the court to support you, where is this courthouse? Where are you going to be going to court tomorrow?
I'm going to be in the Hall of Justice. There's really only one courthouse in Rochester. It's right downtown. It's like 99 Exchange. And we don't ever know the courtroom until I get there. It's usually on the 1st floor. And I just follow the media. I see the cameras, and I know that that's where I'm going.
Well, I'm moved. And you know, you are so. You always smiling since every time we talk, and even when you speak of the most horrific things that this system has done. I just want to know this. This is one question that I want to ask. Just based on what you've been through, and you were a young girl, came into this with high hopes for justice and wanting to make a change. What is your view of the justice system at this point? How do you view it? How do you see it?
Well, you know, the picture that you keep showing, when I literally found out that day that I had court, which is why I look like that. It's funny because that's the video that went viral, and that was like the messiest I ever showed up to court, because I found out like a few hours before court that I had to be there. That day, I think, is the day that if they ever have come remotely close to breaking me, that was it. Because I went in and I said, you know, I didn't put on a scram bracelet because you have no authority to make me pay for it. And I'm perfectly fine with putting it on, but I don't have to pay for it. I never had to pay for it. I paid for it just to try to go along and get along. Here's the case, which is an appellate level case that says I don't have to pay for it. And the judge literally said, I can't believe that even if I didn't have the authority to order you to do something, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but even if I didn't have the authority to order it, I can't believe that I ordered you to do it and you didn't do it. So I'm revoking your release. And I was like, what? Because, you know, we all make mistakes. Nobody is perfect. I don't know everything about the law. I look stuff up. I adjourn to make a decision. But in this case, there was no question, because I literally just showed you the case. The district attorney agreed that this was the case, that the law says I don't have to pay for it. And I went to jail for not doing something that I could not be ordered to do. And it wasn't a mistake. It was I told you, it reminded me of the Kanye West lyrics. I was heartbroken. And not because I went to jail, because I've been to jail for significantly longer than that for less. I was heartbroken because I was right. They were wrong, and it didn't matter. And it was the first time I think that I was ever confronted with like, oh, this is what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like I have this whole idea about this system and what it is and how it is. And I thought I was making all these changes. And, maybe what I was told when I first ran was correct. You can't beat the machine. And I was devastated because in addition, there were several law clerks for the judges that I work with, or that I would typically work with, present in the courtroom that day. And I thought all weekend, they are not going to let me sit in here all weekend. This is illegal. They're not going to really leave me in jail over a holiday weekend just because. Like nobody's going to let this happen with the international coverage that this case is getting. Nobody's going to let that happen. And it totally happened. And I was heartbroken because that is not indicative of the system that I've worked my whole life to be a part of.
So we're about to wrap it up.
I'm sorry, I talk a lot.
Like, listen, man, this is why I wanted to do this interview, because listening to you and understanding that there was a perspective and narrative being put out into the world about you that didn't fit the person that I seen you as. I knew that when people seen you and heard your story, that it would combat negative, energy and narrative that they're putting into this media. Because I've seen what the media can do to try to tear down people like you who are fearless, who are on the side of justice, who do want to do the right thing. So my whole thing was to give you the voice and give you the opportunity. So I'm glad that you spoke, and you spoke eloquently, you spoke passionately about your feelings, what you went through, what was your goal, and just about your experience in general. But we're about to wrap up because we got to wrap up anyway. I would do this for like 2 more hours because I just like listening to you.
Well, maybe I don't know, if I don't go to jail tomorrow, perhaps we can work something out. I can always come back.
Yeah, definitely gonna get you back, and at the completion of this and whatever, and just give updates or whatever. But I just want you to leave. What is something that you just want to leave our viewers with? What is the one thing that you want to leave our viewers with? Give us something that you want to leave the viewers with about you, about whatever it is, something that motivates them. Because I know there's a lot of people that are listening to this right now who are going to be motivated by you, and they're going to, I'm going to try to get as many people to show up to court. I'm reaching out to all my Rochester people and tell them to go there, to stand out there with picket signs and whatever, that you have people that support you. But what is it one thing that you want to leave out?
If nothing else, I would say definitely this has been a very, very difficult experience, and it has been pretty horrible at every level. And I've reached some new lows in my life, which I didn't think I was doing at this age. But I would still say that if you want to change the system, you have to be a part of it. You have to engage. All of this is happening, and I have to think that it's for a reason that's significantly bigger than me. Because as I said previously, if I can go to jail and it's international news and I'm a judge and it's for not obeying an order that's not legal in the first place, then you have to wonder what happens to people that don't have that audience. You have to wonder. And if enough of us that want to change the system get into the system, then we change it. If that means being a police officer, if that means, and so if I have to go to jail a couple times to get other people who want to see justice done to end up being part of the system so they can be that change they want to see, then I'm okay. I prefer not to go to jail, which is why I've lived my entire life the way that I have. But if that's what it takes to bring about a change, I've been saying the same thing when I talk to you about Meek. 10 years probation is insane. Give me a year and I'm a whole different person. 10 years? especially when you're young and your brain is still forming and you're in a whole different space in life in 10 years. And so, like you said, to have something that isn't a felony offense be elevated to a felony sentence because you're on probation for such a lengthy period of time, we have to acknowledge these problems and we have to step up to solve them, because no one is coming to save us. There's absolutely no one coming to save us. So we have to save ourselves. And right now, even though the system may not be perfect, this is the system that we have. And so if we can't break it, if we can't beat it, then we need to join it until we can make it what we need it to be.
I don't think I can say anything after that. I appreciate you, Leticia. I'm definitely going to stay in contact with you. You're in my prayers.
Thank you.
To everybody, so I want people to see you in the light that you deserve to be. You are a queen. You are one of our warriors.
Thank you.
With you, we're going to be fighting with you. We're going to be praying for you. And as long as you continue continue on your path and continue doing what God has in store for you, because this is, like you said, this is definitely God's work. This is His plan, and He's utilizing you as a vessel to make some level of change. And
it's funny because, the Bible says He will prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. And I'm like, man, I didn't know I had this many enemies. This is a big table.
But we love you. And I appreciate you for being so forthcoming and so just vibrant, man. Thank you so much. Basically, like, you're going to court tomorrow. Probably nervous. All of these things going through your head. You might be going to jail. And you came here and you look like just one of God's angels, man. And you look,
thank you.
And that's what it's about, man. It's moving. So thank you. I appreciate you. We're gonna let you log out now. I'll hit you in a little while. Pray with you and hope everything goes well tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, sis.
Good night.
Good night.
I don't have to do anything.
Everybody else, don't tune out yet. We're gonna just give some summations. I hope that interview was real for me, man. That's why I wanted my first interview. There's a couple of other ideas we had, and when she reached out to me, and then even after talking to her, I wanted the people to hear her story because I thought it was motivating, it was inspirational, it was sad at the same time. I say this all the time that I'm doing God's work, and if I have to sacrifice myself to have everybody else have freedom and everybody else be able to reap the fruits of my sacrifice, then I'm willing to do that. And I met in her someone who has that same warrior spirit, and she got involved with the justice system to change. And throughout the time she was there, a lot of our kids weren't incarcerated for crimes that 99% of the rest of the judges would have put them in. And she continues to do the work. She continues to stand in her truth. And, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going on, but I just know, based on the evidence, based on what I see, it makes no sense that woman is going through this for DWI. If she was shit-faced drunk, the system that she swore to uphold was supposed to stand behind her and help her get herself together, not throw her under the bus and destroy her career and put her in prison. But like she said, man, we can't argue about the system if we're not involved in the process of changing, if we're not a part of it, if we're not engaged in, if we're not voting, if we're not running for office, if we're not doing the things that are necessary to make change. So once again, thank all of y'all for tuning in, man. We're going to be doing show. We're going to try to do this at least twice a month and give you something to talk about. We're going to have different perspectives. We're going to have different people doing interviews. Sometimes I just might get up here and talk about things, but whatever it is, we definitely going to have something for you. I appreciate all of you guys that stayed engaged. And until next time, shout out to Hip Hop Success TV. Go join Hip Hop Success TV. Thank y'all for the platform. Thank y'all for hosting this event. Shout out to my wife, Angelique, who's up preparing all these visuals that you see. And shout out to everybody else, man. All of you guys that tuned in. We appreciate you. Thank you. God bless you. And have a good night. For the culture, baby.